Hello and welcome to this videocast for subscribers to davidicke.com. Well, in the decades that I've been researching around the world and these multiple different subjects and topics, one thing became clear right from the start, and that was nothing is what it seems. But the more you get into it, the more it goes much further than that. It's not just everything's not what it seems. It's that everything is inverted, or almost everything is inverted, in the sense that how something appears to be is the opposite of what it turns out to be. And at the moment, we've got this latest conflict in Israel-Palestine, with more children, more civilians being killed with Israeli rockets. And the whole situation that we face is based on the claim that Israel is the ancient home for Jewish people, the Jewish people today, that God promised it to them, and it's their right to go into Palestine and just take it. In fact, this is what was said in the 1948 Declaration of the Establishment of the State of Israel. The land of Israel was the birthplace of the Jewish people. Here their spiritual, religious, and political identity was shaped. Here they first attained statehood, created cultural values of national and universal significance, and gave to the world the eternal book of books. Well, you know what I was saying a few minutes ago about everything being inverted? Well, that is absolute bollocks. And what has happened is that the truth about the manufactured history of what is currently called Israel has been suppressed systematically. So the truth of the origins of the vast majority of Jewish people in the world and in Israel is able to be kept out of public knowledge. So a fake history to suit today's agenda could be put in its place. I've been writing about this for many, many years, and before the people go, yeah, it's anti-Semitic. Well, here's two books by two Jewish writers and researchers. This one's Arthur Koestler, The 13th Tribe, and this is The Invention of the Jewish People by Shlomo Sand, a professor of history at Tel Aviv University. And the story they both tell, with research to back it up, not least by Shlomo Sand, a professional historian, and what others have researched. I've researched it too, and the conclusions are all the same. What we call Jewish people today in Israel have absolutely no historic or genetic connection to the land they now call Israel, Palestine. It's an extraordinary story. It's an extraordinary hoax. And the origin of the overwhelming vast number of people called Jewish today and in Israel is that they came out of the area known as Sumer, Babylon, we now call Iraq, and they settled in a place called Khazaria. Khazaria was an empire in the Caucasus, and on one side was the Christian Empire, on one side was the Muslim Empire, and the king of Khazaria, called King Bulan, in 740 AD, had a mass conversion of the population to Judaism. In fact, the king of Khazaria was called the Kagan, and that's why Kagan is such a common Jewish name today. And people talk about certain Jewish genetic traits. They talk about the Jewish nose and things like that. I mean, all different races have different traits. Well, that's actually not a trait of Israel. It's a trait of the Caucasus, because that's where it all came out of. And as the Khazaria Empire broke up, they moved up into northern Europe, or north into Europe, into Russia, Lithuania, Poland, and all these countries. And then eventually moved across into Germany. And these were the people known as Ashkenazi Jews that suffered under the Nazis and founded the state of Israel, and many moved to America. There was no, and there is no, historic connection of today's Jewish people to the land of Israel. It is a giant hoax. And as Arthur Koestler says in The 13th Tribe of this situation, it would mean that their ancestors came not from the Jordan, but from the Volga, not from Canaan, but from the Caucasus, once believed to be the cradle of the Aryan race. That's where we get Caucasian from. And that genetically, Koestler says, they are more closely connected to the Hun, Uyghur, and Magyar tribes than to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Should this turn out to be the case, and it is, then the term anti-Semitism would be void of any meaning based on a misapprehension shared by both the killers and their victims. The story of the Khazar Empire, as it slowly emerges from the past, begins to look like the most cruel hoax which history has ever perpetrated. And that's another thing, anti-Semitism. Semitism, Semitic, refers not to a race, but to a language group. And that language group does not include the Khazars. And in fact, the vast majority of the Semitic language group is from today's Arab countries and Arab peoples. See what I mean? Everything is inverted. And this story has such massive importance to understanding what is happening today, how we got to this state, and so much more about what's going on in the world. And that is what I'm going to explain and go into today.